All right, so we do have 6:31 on my clock here, so I'll call the Grove EMS Commission meeting to order here in Deerfield, Thursday, February 19th. And you can see who's all here. Everybody's here in person except for Paula. She's online. And I will go to item number 2. Public appearances. This is the public commission on any item on or not on the agenda.
And for attendance purposes, Randy Belkey will go on the attendance.
Hi, Randy. Okay, nobody speak, so we'll move on to item 3, approval of minutes from prior meetings. And we do have minutes in the agenda, and then we've got a couple of sessions that we'll have to.
I would move approval of January 15th minutes with one word change. Under approval of minutes, the word in the second sentence, I believe, should be minutes rather than December 18th. It's changing the, it should be. That's one word change. I would move.
We have a motion?
All seconds.
Motion and second, any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Opposed? Abstained? Have 2 sets of minutes.
December and last. Not.
So we do have the December 18th closed session minutes. Can you send them to Paula? Or how best do we get them?
It's okay. I can just abstain.
December 18th minutes.
Are you wanting to take them separately? Okay, I would. Let's make that. Williams approval.
The December 18th
December 18th, yes, sorry.
to open them or keep them closed? Okay, we have a motion. Second. Motion and second, December 18th session minutes. Open them. Any more discussion? Hearing none, those in favor?
I abstain. Your audio is really soft, just so you know.
Yeah, I was just about to ask Paul if you were having as hard of a time with the audio as I am.
Yep, can barely hear you guys.
I could hear okay before, and now it's like super quiet. I know that Christy made the motion, but I'm not sure who seconded it and whether there's open or closed.
Steve Anders.
Thanks, I got Steve Anders for the second.
Louder, Steve.
Open, we're gonna have the minutes be open, Mandy.
Okay, I can hear you much better now. Thank you.
I'll move to approve the January 15th minutes as presented and to open them up.
Williams will second one change, and that is the location. The Cottage Grove Emergency Services Building. Okay,
Say we're in.
at the very top of the page.
Oh, okay, I missed that. Thank you.
Mandy, I'll get you copies, the updated
Thank you.
January. Since they're opening.
We had a motion? Discussion, I guess my question would be, in the minutes, we didn't outline any specifics.
No, because typically you don't in closed
Public
session.
information?
No, I mean, it's public information, but in closed
Right.
session, you keep them back.
Okay,
That's standard.
okay. We have a motion and a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain?
Abstain. Paula.
All abstain, motion carried. Okay. Moving on. Item number 4, discussing consider approval of January financial.
About the overdue run fees, 885.
885 overdue run fees.
Yep. They're questioning what it is.
Why is it high?
What's that?
I don't understand why it's so high.
That's, oh,
$3,000.
yeah, that's the transfer of runs from standard billing to collections.
You.
So over the course of the year, that'll get upwards of 100. Sometimes more. But I think 3,500 for the month is a low number. Which means we've been working the billing process pretty good and keeping as many runs active as we can. But that's also reflective in our A&R, our aging, in that there's more runs that stay in aging because they don't transfer out into, so it'll be in that, the longer period of time. So, over 180.
Other questions?
I was surprised we don't have, that we paid our medical director in January. Was that just how the timing of the bill? It's $1,000 a month.
Yeah, we've been in contact with them because of the transition with the contract we signed last month. It goes from Madison Emergency Physicians to sending us the bill to SSM is supposed to be sending us the bill. But that didn't seem like they were really prepared on how they were going to send us the bill, so they haven't sent us the bill yet. They'll get caught up. We'll pay them. Yeah, we asked that same, maybe asked out loud, so I asked them the question, and that's where we get.
So most likely there'll be $2,000 in
It's time.
February.
Hopefully, it's the 19th. We haven't gotten a bill yet, so
In March.
in March,
To see.
whether we pay 12,000 all at once or
Same number.
1,000 at a time, we've often wondered, is it easier to pay the big bulk, write one check, one stamp, or pay monthly?
Or quarterly.
Yeah, they would really do whatever
Quarterly would be better than monthly.
I agree. Let's do quarterly.
yeah, now that we're probably gonna end up with a quarterly bill, we might just suggest to keep it that way.
They'd be open, I think that they'd be less noise.
Yeah, I think a little bit less work on everybody's ends.
Think of that extra
Good.
5 cents in interest that will gain by leaving that money in the bank. Those extra 2 months.
Cover the postage.
No,
I'm printing one check instead.
Williams will move approval of January financial reports.
Udall second.
We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Moving on, item number 5, discuss and consider approval of bills for budgeted and expenses.
Approved.
Paul makes motion to approve. Second. Don't have a second yet.
I will second it.
Andrew seconds. Any more questions or discussion? None, those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carried. Moving on, item number 6. Discuss and consider approval of write-offs and
Okay, we have no hardship waiver requests. And as, oh, I must have forgot to send the document to me. It's all on me. So the normal document I would give you that shows you our trajectory for the year, we're $400 short of being on path. But because it's only got 1 month worth of data in it, it doesn't look very impressive. But so we needed to have, let me grab it here. We needed to be at, the goal was 95,833. We're at 95,240. So I guess that's more like $600. So the graph doesn't look like much of anything because there's close to where the mark is supposed to be.
the aged accounts went down $43,000. Good.
We'll move approval of notice and aging of accounts.
Do it, we'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Moving on. Staff report.
Okay, so you see the second graph changed a little bit from last month. It's giving us our unit hour utilization. Thing I remember when I was driving here that I didn't include was the actual number of incidents responded by each of those ambulances. Why this graph is different now than it was before is before I was calculating based off of average and 90th fractile response times. Not realizing that our report system actually gave us a unit hour utilization statistic already. As I started to use more data from the predetermined reports, unit hour utilization can't be on average or by a 90 fractile. It's the total amount of time they're on an incident. So why there's 2 sets of numbers here is that the Medic 80 and Medic 78 top shows the amount of time each of those units were physically assigned to a call, which meant that they got dispatched, they did call things, and then they cleared from the call. It didn't include any time to return from the hospital or return to the station, which could mean that even though it says 10.15 for Medic 78, they were likely still in some part of Madison or wherever hospital they were at. So the average response time back to the area is 18 minutes from any of the hospitals. So with the combined, that puts all of the total committed time of both ambulances plus return time for the number of transports together to show what our total time assigned on incidents is. And that 19.82 is about right for what we've seen over the last bunch of months for unit hour utilization. And like I said, for next month, I'll make sure to have on here the total number of incidents that each ambulance was assigned to.
That'd be great.
Why don't you count the route back to the station? They're still theoretically out of service. Well, strike that to a point. You know, I mean, if they're still on South Park Street yet, you get a call in Deerfield, and it happens to be the Deerfield ambulance, obviously, they're not gonna get to that one.
Yeah, I think the portions of this statistic take that number into consideration. The medic 78, medic 80, those show the numbers that when they're physically on the call, the bottom two combined includes returning to the hospital.
So you got the month of January combined, and then obviously 2026 is the same, but
Yeah,
so 20% of the time, they're either on a call or returning to the station, not at the station, ready to go.
right. Yeah, they're doing something physically call related. This also does not include the amount of time that the staff would need to complete a patient care report afterwards. That's time spent in quarters. They have a little bit more freedom for completion of that as long as it's done before they leave for the duty day. So it's a little harder to track that. So typically when we give you a unit hour utilization, it's going to exclude those other ancillary tasks that aren't specifically call related, because those are the things that we can say on a call, returning from the hospital. These are the defined times. We're not asking our staff to click like the lawyer, click the clock when you're on the clock, or chess players, I guess is better than the lawyer, but so this is just simply all unit hour utilization specifically related to calls. Yes.
Great.
So where you see,
I added, we had, I think 78 transports. So I added 78 transports worth of time to these two calls to get that total amount of time for both ambulances.
oh, okay, I was looking down here. Okay, I got it.
78.
And we're somewhere between 70 and 75% transport rate. That's been our pretty static for us. So when all these numbers on the top show you the total number of calls, those are the total number of times we were dispatched to something. And then somewhere between 70 and 75% of those incidents we transport to the hospital.
So last month, 123 calls, 75%, about 80 of those calls resulted in a transport to the hospital. Okay. And that drives up that available time to.
Yeah,
the combined utilization to 20%.
Yeah, the more transports we have, the less will be available. Then statistically speaking, or formatting wise, the rest of the report is the same. There is a detail that I neglected to add that I remembered after I sent this off. I wanted to put in my chief's report that Dane County EMS owns the Zoll monitor that we have been carrying in car 79. We've been utilizing it for years as a resource rather than it sitting in a closet at emergency management. Well, they've recently taken it back, and the discussion is that they're going to maintain it, put an air tag on it so they know where it's at, and then we should be able to get it back. But as of right now, all we have in the car is an AED. So it's not going to adversely affect us. We've discussed whether we take an extra cardiac monitor off of an ambulance and put it onto the car, but then that limits the ability of that ambulance to be quickly deployed as an ambulance. If it doesn't have a cardiac monitor on it, it can't be as an ambulance. And what happens often enough, when the ambulance is at station 2, if the crew is on a call, shift change, and the next crew comes in, they can immediately be active on the backup ambulance as long as it has the equipment in it. So it doesn't make, to me, it doesn't make right now a whole lot of sense to shuffle that piece of equipment around to possibly decrease our capabilities for the thought that we might be increasing it. And I could be overthinking it too. I don't know. It hasn't come back to adversely affect us yet, but we do have an AED in there, so we can provide electrical therapy that way if needed. We just can't provide paramedic electrical therapy.
She said it was owned by the county, but they're gonna return it, or what? I didn't follow.
Yeah, they've worked to find where all their equipment is, because they kind of know that we have it, and they ask all the time if we still have it, and I'm like, yeah, we do. So it hasn't had an annual check for a couple of years, and we haven't paid for that, although we've paid to maintain everything else, equipment wise. So they're going to have its annual maintenance completed, put an air tag on it so they can easily figure out where it's at, and then we'll discuss whether we can get it back or not. We've told them that we use it a lot for training, not only for us, but for some partner departments. and it goes on a fair number of calls. Especially when special event season arrives, it'll go with the car and the bike team on special events.
What does a new cardiac monitor go for?
That's a topic of discussion in the next line, but a new cardiac monitor of our current is about 45,000. A recertified used of a 5 to 9-year-old used with a 2-year warranty is 15. Those are all things that through the thought process I've looked into. I want to make sure that we don't spend money and then we can get the county's monitor back. Plus we're nearing end of life for the monitors we've got. So we don't want to buy something brand new like the one we've got, and then in 3 years when we're going to go through a capital process, buy something completely different. So all cautious of all those items, and we'll discuss that in the capital.
So you're thinking about 3 years is the time frame for replacing the ones we got.
Yeah, that slots in for 29.
That's right.
But if we can't get the one back routinely from the county and we desire to have a monitor in that, I think the goal factory refurbished of an older model for 15,000 is a reasonable expenditure, but I'm not willing to commit to that right now. That's just information.
Can I ask for a little more information about some of your deputy chief's report? Sure. Image trend context.
Image Trend is our patient care reporting software provider. So the thing that we write all of our patient care reports with, Connect is the conference that they have that brings all their users together with their employees to not only give information about their product, how to use it better, but brings groups together to connect to see how everyone else uses them.
Interesting. Thank you.
I think this year the conference will be in Minnesota for one last time.
Hey, Paul.
Yeah, and then because he wants to go to St. Paul in, I guess May isn't terrible for St. Paul, but there's better places to go. Rumor has it that they were going to move it to something more glamorous. It is relatively convenient for us to be in St. Paul. Sure, it's over 5 or 6 hours to get there, but at least it's not an airplane or any of those things.
How often do we have paramedic student and Deer Grove EMS volunteer Nikki Perez has begun clinical rotation? Or how many do we get in a year?
Per class, we'll get 2 or 3 students. So that's in spring and fall, 4 to 6 total. So between both spring and fall classes, that's 8 to 12 students that come through. And that's how we also are able to meet new prospective paramedics, is through those field experiences.
It's great. Then, a member of the Dane County Peer Support Team Healthy Minds completed 2 ride-along shifts. How long does the ride-along shift? Is it the full 24 hours? Or
Generally, no. We try to keep those ride-along shifts to say 3 to 6 hours, something.
reasonable?
Yeah, a lot of times the ride-alongs are for folks that want to experience what we do or see how we go about doing it. The Healthy Minds person has had a career that's been EMS adjacent, so kind of understands what we do, but has never been on a physical ambulance before. So able to come in because Healthy Minds provides public safety, mental health services. It's good for them to stay in touch with what the agencies do locally.
Great idea. Thank you for doing
Now, when we talk about ride-alongs for these purposes, like whether it be high school students or someone just wanting to experience it, those are the shorter, over 6-hour ride-alongs. The student field experience ride-alongs are typically going to be 12 hours. Because largely they need patient contacts and experience. They don't need time. The time is a component, but the more important component is that they see patients and learn how to interact with patients and other emergency providers and therapies and all those things of being a good paramedic.
Congratulations on being president of the Deer Grove, or the Dane County EMS Commission.
Yeah, in the county EMS landscape, there's been a bunch of change at the leadership level. So I think for the next year, supposed to only be a trustee, because it goes trustee, then president, then vice president, then president. But because the vice president and president both resigned, I got moved up a whole lot faster than I was supposed to.
That's a 1-year assignment,
2.
2-year assignment. Nice. Any other questions?
Well, I just want to say congrats to Mandy. We're looking forward to you becoming full-time. Great.
Thanks, Carrie. I appreciate it.
And then I also wanted to acknowledge, I seen today that paramedic Mickelson had an addition to his family. So congratulations to him and his family as well. And then I noticed down here that we had 2 paramedics resign
Yep,
due to life.
yep.
issues.
Yeah, one was Dan, one of our former full timers. He works full time at Wanakee EMS and part time at Meriter Hospital. The demands at Meriter sounds like they've gotten a little bit more. Plus, we're in a unique situation. If you look at our casual staff list, it's big. We have a lot of casual staff members. Through scheduling, have managed to keep them all very engaged. Other departments don't have that luxury, so the full-time folks get forced involuntary overtime quite a bit in other departments. So that's really the effect of why some folks limited availability for us is because they're being told that they have to work in other departments. That would also be one of the reasons why Danny is working quite a bit, not only at but at Meriter. Holden abruptly had to take over duties at his family farm. Farming's a lot of work.
Yeah, plus son. You anticipate to up or add a couple more casual?
I think we're in a spot again right now where we added 5 towards the end of last year. So we want to make sure we get all those folks through orientation and that we're not going to add too many more to our roster list and distinctly decrease our ability to have people maintain engaged. So we're always keeping our eye on the people that do apply because we keep our applications open. And I'm sure we'll get to a point, maybe more mid-year, where we'll consider looking at it. But for right now, we're just going to work on making sure that what we do have gets through orientation and are good for working. We haven't had any problems filling shifts. Not that we should use that as our gauge, because if we have problems filling shifts, we're probably behind.
It's too late.
But we have a good bit of availability and some people that are going to finish their orientation and come in and have more availability to work. I guess rather than full time. When they're in orientation, we don't move them to a two-person ambulance until they're complete.
Only other thing I had was that I see that you guys had that you attended the kickoff meeting and walked through to begin the Cottage Grove Fire EMS study analysis. Will you be providing regular updates?
Yeah.
How it's going?
Yeah, and what I'll end up doing is Passing through any information that comes from. They have I think a 16 to 20 week timeline for their deliverables. Also what this will transition into is using some of what we might learn there over for Deerfield and seeing if we can do some maximizing of the facilities that we have. I don't know that we need expansion, but we know that there's a lot of stuff in the building and maybe there's ways we can figure out how to find those.
That was last week. You guys did walk there, right?
Yep.
Oops, Christie.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I've given them all the data they need. I haven't heard back from Franz, who's the primary investigator for data type stuff. And I'll let him sift through all the information I gave him, and if he needs more, I'll fill in the gaps.
One more question. I've had a lot of time sitting lately. So I read reports very closely. Noticing the headshots, and I'm going back to the EMS MC. On page, the lower right, average loaded dramatic drop down January.
I think that's all about the number of trips that they happen to enter in the month. Because the load miles are pretty, I mean, we do almost all of our transports to Madison, and the difference in miles between St. Mary's and UW is nominal. So if we're consistently transporting patients downtown, those mileages are gonna stay relatively flat. But we also know that in January or December into January, because of holidays, there were fewer trips entered.
Do you think the cold weather had an impact on that people were staying home and not doing anything or hibernating?
No, we were pretty steady throughout all that.
It's the only one hibernating.
Oh, you had a good reason.
Yeah.
More questions from the staff report? Okay, so we'll move on. Number 8, correspondence.
Okay, I have 3 pieces of correspondence. First one I'll do comes from Christie. But I can pass this around. I've got it on my screen and I can read it here. Chief Lang, I'm writing to let you know that Corey Romatko generously responded to my request for giving his personal story about serving as a paramedic for Deer Grove EMS tonight. I was asked to provide an update on DGMS for the Town of Cottage Grove Emergency Government Committee meeting. I was prepared with information from our meetings and I could speak about the major changes that have occurred over my decade on the commission, but I don't have the personal experience to share. Roger and I sat with Corey and his wife at a DGEMS celebration a few years ago, and we learned a lot from his experience and stories he shared. I thought I would inquire if anyone was available and willing to help the community understand that what DGMS work involves. Corey said he was willing to help, and once again, I learned a lot from him. He spent much more time than I anticipated because everyone had questions. DGMS is fortunate to hire and keep outstanding people like Corey Romatko.
It was wonderful.
We agree. Okay, the next 2 are related. This is a card that the paramedics that responded to a call for service received from the family. So it's to Deer Grove EMS, Corey and Easton. Thank you so much for responding to the call involving my grandpa on 2/6. Our family is incredibly grateful for the work you do and for the compassion you showed him. Although the outcome was not what we expected, we know he had been struggling for quite some time and that everything possible was done. He didn't really want us to call for an ambulance because he was tough like that. but he had great respect for first responders. We sincerely appreciate everything you all did every day. Thank you from all of our family. And then through people knowing people, a friend of one of our paramedics said, myself and the patient's family thought very highly of you all at Deer Grove. They're recommending memorial donations go to you folks. Thanks for taking such good care of our guy. And then they included the obituary.
It's good to hear that. Okay. Moving on, number 9, discuss and consider the 2026 to 2035 capital replacement schedules. Hand up.
Yep. Yep, I include this budget year, even though it's been settled already, to show perspective that we had capital purchase. This one we funded, from our fund balance. So for budget year 27 and 28 would be an ambulance replacement. And what we've always done is split that up between, kind of two halves. In the first year, we buy the chassis, the cot, and the load system, and the stair chair. And then the next year would be to pay for the full conversion. I requested a couple different quotes, and they were for the 286, 625 is for a brand new ambulance build. I personally think it's best that we plan for a brand new ambulance build in case something happens. We haven't actually allocated these dollars. They're just kind of earmarked. What we will do though is that for the 2028 build will be a remount, which saves about $60,000.
So the 286, 625
Is the cost of a brand new ambulance.
complete chassis and
No, because the chassis is in the first year. So the brand new ambulance is 360. Almost 370
complete chassis, box, whole thing.
without the cotton load system though. So add the cotton load system on there and then it's another, whatever that total is. More than that. It's 315, 34 and 5,500. So 32, about another 70,000. So
2027, you'd buy the chassis, the cot, load system, stair chair. Then 2028, you'd actually transfer the box, and that's what's 170. Essentially.
170 if you
I
move the
didn't,
box
I
to it.
didn't fix a number there. That's my apology.
Okay.
That number should say, the 170 should also say 286. 170 was the number that it was last time we did this. So last year, the number was 170, but it's jumped that fast.
It's 286.
286.
That's for the conversion.
That's for a brand new ambulance.
Well, you got conversion written here and that's why, because
Yeah, well, because if we were to say we want to buy an ambulance from our manufacturer, from Demers, and let them do all the work with sourcing the chassis and all the other stuff, it would be those two numbers combined. Basically,
Which two? The
400
151 and the
430,000, the 151 and the 286.
so
So
it's at 170, that's
cross off that 170 and pretend it's not there.
I'm a little confused still. So you said 286 is for a new, what, when you say 286 new ambulance, what is it?
286 plus the $80,000 for the chassis. That's what a new ambulance would be.
Okay, that's where you come
So
from, 360.
366.
So what you're recommending in 28 is a conversion?
We will be able to remount the box on Buzz and Mickey one more time each. And that is about, the conversion then would be about just over 200,000.
Okay. So you've got a worst case budget for the 286 for new.
Correct.
The goal would be to remount, it would probably come in closer to 200.
Correct.
Okay, now I understand.
Yes. And here is, like, this is the way that, as I look to the future, my mind is working with this. is because bus is a 2017. And after 2027, when it turns 10, it will only be insurable for fair market value. The fair market value for an ambulance at 10 years old with 160,000 miles, not very good. So that's why we want to keep them no longer than 10 years. But because of the situation we were put into with vehicles and whatnot, we're going to have to keep it a little bit longer than that. We have no choice. So we'll roll that. We'll roll the dice this once. Just this once with just the same. The rest will be placed at the 9-year mark, hopefully. 9-year mark and about 150,000 miles, which keeps us under any of the major repairs that need to be made for some of those engines and vehicles. So the plan would be, when this gets put into real life, and we'll work on this better throughout the budget process for 2027, would be that we'll commit to the chassis, the cot and the load system for 2027. We'll likely be able to pay for that out of fund balance. And that answer will come through the audit and what will come out from the audit. So that we'll be able to have the chassis on order, take delivery of the chassis middle 2027, tell the upfitter that we're using that we want to take delivery of the ambulance in January of 2028. So that we physically replace that ambulance. So it's only like 10 and a half years old when we send it. And then get it back in early 2028 as a newly remounted ambulance. The other component to this, with the 2027 budget year, and this is all just kind of setting us up for the end of the year. There are not any decisions that need to be made tonight, but annually Stryker Medical has cost increases anywhere from somewhere between 5 and 10%. They're going to tell us when that'll be in either September or October. We have the ability in that time frame to commit to the purchase and put off payment until and receipt of the items for almost a year. So we would be able to commit to the purchase under the pricing that I have in hand today and avoid a 5 to 10% price increase for a unit we're going to use next year. That's the moral of the story for the next 2 years. When you begin looking at 2029, as I mentioned earlier, we own 3 cardiac monitors that have 4 vehicles. It'd be good. And part of 2029, we'll get data from the study that we just referenced, and that it'll tell us when we will likely need to have a second resource in likely Cottage Grove. Well, as we expand to needing that second resource on duty, that's another spot where we will definitely need an additional cardiac monitor and maybe even another ambulance. That isn't even included in any of this, because it was just too much to try to factor in. So this just looks at our current operation. For 2029, I did add the 4th cardiac monitor. Now you're going to say, Eric, you put $55,000 in there for a cardiac monitor, and your answer to us before was $45,000 for a cardiac monitor. That's because the $55,000 is for the newest version that just released earlier late last year. We would envision by 2029 that all of the wrinkles of a brand new cardiac monitor would be worked out, that we'd be able to purchase the newest version of the monitor, and that they'd have a plan on the monitor we have now for its obsolescence. So rather than quote what we're using right now that probably we wouldn't buy in 2029 anyway, I use the quote of what the current cost of that monitor is. We have Zoll X series. The new monitor is called the Zoll Xenix. So they're not going to have a new monitor out before then. That's why I use the $55,000 for that.
So for some equipment like this, is there any opportunity or anything like that for something?
Yeah, and we can check those out. Absolutely.
Say it's.
Yeah, we can try to write for those with something like the assistance to firefighter grant. We have to apply kind of early on those to make sure that we get through the process. AFG, like any other federally run process, used to go kind of quick, but as each government shutdown and each change to government happens, it lengthens those processes. So we can certainly look at that stuff and apply for it.
So the replacement monitors are all the same. They're all the same model, same year. So it's not like there's an opportunity to stage it, do 2 and 2. And would that create confusion because they're gonna operate a little differently and the thing bad?
I think you said everything I would have said.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
You said it already. I don't need to. Yeah, we could make a big bundle of every time we purchase an ambulance, all those pieces of equipment are purchased with it. But we're gonna eventually get to a point where we're not gonna be able to purchase a Zoll X series. So we could go where if we're keeping an ambulance for 9 years, we could have over the course of those ambulance replacements for 9 full years, one monitor that's always gonna be different. And yeah, we'd rather not confuse people.
Gotcha.
The best way to look at it is in times of emergency, we rely a lot on reptile brain. And reptile brain is based off of how you train and how you build habits. And when you build habits with one certain thing, I mean, imagine when you wake up in the morning and the night before you put your toothbrush someplace else and you didn't remember where we put it, you go to find your toothbrush, it's not there. You're like, what the heck? Imagine if a button were different on someone as you're trying, on a monitor as you're trying to save your life.
Time is of the essence. Yeah, gotcha.
So those are things that we always have discussions about. The best way to go about it. Sure, it spends smaller bites of money over the course of time, which ultimately gets you to this kind of the same amount of money, might save you money, I don't know. But you have those gaps where you have problems with potential defaulting to something. Stryker and Zoll both offer a loan program, so could take delivery earlier and push off payments for years. I'd much rather stick with a plan and go with it rather than push payments off.
You pace it so that in 29, you don't have any expenses of magnitude. It paces out.
Yep. So this budget plan is kind of for us to keep an eye on, plus to distribute to our municipal partners so that they can see for their capital improvement plans that I know for sure the village of Cottage Grove has. Village of Deerfield will be moving towards that. And then we provide it to the town so that they can see where we're going to have major purchases and kind of plan for it. To point out in 28, 31, and 34, those numbers after the version should be the same as the number on the right. If I'm going to distribute this to our municipal partners, I'll edit that so it makes more sense.
So like in 31 where it says vehicle conversion, it should say new ambulance 310. Right?
Yep. So that 180 is neat. I'm just going to delete a number from there completely. I'm not even going to have another number in there to confuse things.
It's just new. It's just a new ambulance.
Yep.
And same thing in 34. Okay.
Yep.
So it should be 340, not 230. But you're just gonna take that line.
And those, again, I'm crystal balling it with those numbers any past the next couple of years.
Hats off for you. I think they're pretty close.
I thought they were pretty close last year, but as it turns out, they're somewhere along the line between doing this, 14 months ago-ish when I was working on it, and now there was a big price increase. Plus, ambulance manufacturer of a new one is pretty far out. So when we're talking in 2034, I know we're all still going to be here. That's going to be a 100% brand new ambulance. You'll need to talk about that in 2031 because it's going to be almost a 3-year production time.
3-year production, 3-year lead time. Great.
Yeah, I agree.
It doesn't take 3 years to build. It's just their backlog.
I'm surprised it takes them 3 months to take a box off of an ambulance and put them onto a new one, but Paramedic, not a vehicle manufacturer.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No, so it was a discuss and consider, and I think it's basically more of a discuss, right?
Well, this will go to,
So you can update this and send it to,
yeah, so we've always approved it so that we can send it on to, this approves the schedule, it doesn't approve the actual purchases.
so you'd like a motion, so I guess there's some edits here.
Yeah, I'm gonna take off the 170, 180, and 230 from 28, 31, and 34. That should hopefully clear up any confusion that I inadvertently caused.
I'm looking for a motion.
I'll
Correct,
make
Chief.
a motion to approve the plan with the edits that we talked about.
Motion,
Seconds.
all seconds, we got a motion to update the draft budget and send to the municipalities. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained, motion carried. Okay. Moving on, discuss and consider contract with Stryker EMS for pro care services for the con load system.
Okay, so this developed very quickly last week, like unexpectedly quickly. Paula, in your, if you didn't get it in your email, I sent you the memo that I handed out here that is also on the screen. So before I didn't even know that I was gonna have these contracts before our packet was made. So luckily I got it. We've had a change, a rolling change in our salesperson from Stryker at the end of last year till early this year. We had a dedicated sales person that effectively disappeared, then resigned. And then we always had the Milwaukee area salesperson that we could call on if needed to. He was our previous salesperson. Now Stryker hired somebody and we've been in contact with him. How this evolved is that our ProCare plan came to an end in the middle of January. We discovered this, got a new contract, and that's what you have in front of you. So
So the contract had
a
expired.
three-year contract, and it was what, 23 to 26 or
26, 28.
24 to 26, I think it was, is what the last one was signed. So it expired on January of 26. I made, with the relationship I had with our previous salesman, he would have just called me and said, hey, your ProCare plan's gonna expire, you need to replace. Well, because of those changes that didn't happen, it was observed during the budget time that it was going to expire. With everything else going on, I neglected to follow through knowing that it was gonna expire. I will, once we sign this, make a calendar reminder for myself to make sure that doesn't happen again. Throughout the course of the contract, we also took ownership of a new cotton load system that happens to be in the 25 ambulance stitch. So we got a account credit for $2,790.24. The current contract's value is $9,895.20 per year. Take away the 2790 and change, and that puts us for 2026 at $7,104.96, which is under what we budgeted.
What did we budget for the Stryker contract?
7532.83 carried over last year.
Why the huge increase in the next contract?
I asked the same thing, and I don't know what happened over the course of 3 years, but it was literally, I think, our old cot, which is in ambulance buzz, the 2017, it's still kind of close to what we paid in for the last contract. It's the newer cots and load systems. We have a Power Pro 2, which is the newest version for the cot, and then the newer load system. Those went up on average $400 or $500 each for the Pro Care system. But when you look at it, like I talked about, the load system is $34,500. The cot is $31,000. They have an expected life or expected useful period from Stryker of 7 years. We'll use them for 9. The Pro Care plan covers all maintenance, all repairs, and all batteries throughout the life of the contract. So things that we've had under the last contract was each cot has a removable battery on it, similar to what your power tools have. So every year we get one replacement battery for each cot. So in our building, we have one for each cot and then a spare for each station. So we have the ability to swap it and always have a charged battery. The load system also has a battery in it. Because it has a battery operated pump, and that's what lifts patients. Well, that battery has a similar 3 to 4 year useful life. When we begin to, in winter especially, we begin to have problems with that. They come out and they replace it and don't get charged for it. Our agreement pays for the tech to come out, the mileage that the tech incurs. We don't have to pay for that. It pays for all their time and all their materials. So if we have when we have annual maintenance or any problem with the cot, we don't see a bill for any of that because of our Pro Care plan. Nothing. While it seems like a lot of money to spend on it, you take that in correlation to what a new device costs and understanding the piece of information, the staff memo that every patient goes on a cot that we transport to the hospital. The cot itself lifts up to 750 pounds. The load system lifts up to 500. Those are lifts that our staff don't have to do anymore. Where once we get a patient onto the cot, the cot and the load system do a lot of that working for us. I'm not saying that we can't do the lifting. It's just that it has led to some longevity and employee satisfaction to have those things. They've turned into industry standard. So if we don't have the functioning equipment, it also goes back to what you know. If you have to use something in manual mode, Ross can attest to this. When we have something, the Stryker has redundancy on it, so that you can use everything manual. Well, because it functions so well and so often, we forget how that manual stuff works. So we like to have good equipment, maintain it well. This is one of the things that helps us maintain it. So the moral of the story is the full contract is $29,685.60. Our first year will pay that just over 7,100, and then an average of 98,895 for the following 2 years. We'll take delivery of a new cot and place it in service in 2028. So similarly, we will get the amount of one cot and load system back. But they can't write a contract like that until we physically purchase and put it into service and take
It covers 3 or 4.
This is 3 cots, 3 load systems for 3 years. Why it looks different is because we have 2 kinds of one cot, 1 kind of another cot,
That's why it's got item
and 3 load systems. Yep.
1 and 2 is for the 2, and then the different one is item 3 and 4. And then when we purchase the new con load system for the Buzz mount, then we would retire one of those cot.
So when we go to renew this contract, we would have the similar account credit to defray the first year's cost because they'll refund us. When we buy one, we get a year worth of warranty with it.
How often have we had situations where the con load system failed on a call?
It never fully fails because it has redundancy. There's no way for it to not work at all. It's very infrequent. I'd say a handful of times.
And so when it says maintenance, what, so they come out and they do preventive maintenance, part of it's battery replacement, or there are other things that they're doing?
Yeah, they look at all the components of the cot, the hoses, the wear surfaces. There's bearings all in there, and in fact, one of the cots, our older, of the older of our cots, just needed some bearings replaced. So it wasn't during the maintenance check that they found that it was in between uses.
And
So
and how often do they do preventive maintenance? Once a year they're coming.
yeah, so normally we like to bring them out in spring. They're able to come out and clean all the salt off of everything. But they're not just maintaining the cot, they're maintaining the load system too. And there's a bunch of stuff in the movable rail of that is wearable that they automatically replace. Between bearings and all those things. You're preemptively signing that. You weren't supposed to sign that till your board voted on it.
It's gonna be fine.
There you go, Aaron,
Okay.
run with it. No.
Curious.
Yeah, so what my plan is our MPA reads that the commission can enter into contracts up to $15,000. It doesn't specifically say whether that's a $15,000 annual contract or a $15,000 cumulative contract. But this is listed as a $30,000 contract. The last version of this, we took to each of the 3 municipalities for approval. I'll do the same with this. So if, assuming that we're tonight, I've already requested that it go on the agenda for Greenfield on Monday. And then in future, Village of Cottage Grove meetings, approved there as well.
Fine, right, Carly. And then, item number 15 under miscellaneous. It says addendum should be governed and construed in accordance with laws of state of Michigan. And the parties consent to agree to all arising from the addenda and state courts in Michigan. Can we change that to Wisconsin?
I can ask, but I would suspect because their corporate office is located in Michigan, and this is their standard agreement, that they're going to say no.
Change standard agreements.
I can certainly ask.
I'd ask. If not, that's fine, but I'd ask. I'm good.
Good. Any other questions? We're looking for a motion. So moved.
I'll second.
Andrew's motions to approve. Carrie seconds. Discussion. Hearing none, those in favor?
Hi.
I,
Opposed? Same motion carries. So did you want this signed after the municipalities get it?
I think you and I can sign the top of that. Then I'll find the signatures as I go through each.
Oh.
Oh,
All right. Moving on then, I think we've got future agenda items, I guess. One of the things would be an update on the PAA study. Hopefully we'll have something that can be updated. The second thing would be the Johnson Block audit starts Friday, so I'm not sure there may be an update on where we're at with the audit. I think that,
Then, don't we get the draft results for April?
Correct, April.
results for,
They'll give us draft results in April.
oh, okay, so well, this would be an April meeting,
Yep.
so that. And then we had talked last time about a survey. Paul, I don't know if you have any comments on that, as you brought that up in our last meeting.
yeah, we had talked about doing an employee survey during the chief's review. So I think it would be good to do that and just to get an overall snapshot of how things are going among the employees.
But we talked about that last time. I think it certainly feedback is good. And so I guess the question is there an appetite for doing that, first and foremost, and then second is execution, how we would do that, questions and that sort of thing.
I'd like
So
it to just be an agenda item for next month.
Yeah.
just-
So this is
yeah.
not for tonight, but so we'll put that on the agenda. Just think about that and we can talk more next month. Any other agenda items? No?
Adjourned. Or did you just
No.
move to adjourn?
No, I was just saying nothing else other than.
The number
Lower.
12. So do we have a motion?
Motion. We all got an invitation to the Saturday night next week.
Yeah, that was nice of you to have dinner on my husband's birthday.
On his birthday.
Dinner now.
Because the association is keeping track of attendance, I haven't, we'll make an agenda saying that like the commission might be present, but no business will happen.
Yes,
I'm going.
I'm going.
husband's going.
Nothing.
Do it.
I plan to sign up to go.
Next Saturday.
22nd.
I will be skiing with my nephew, so unfortunately I won't.
In Wisconsin?
No, in Arizona, believe it or not, in Flagstaff.
Oh.
You think Arizona, you think there's no ski hill? There is a big one and they got 29 inches in the last 3 days.
Wow.
A lot of snow. Well, you saw the
We got the
avalanche. That was cool. What?
Wow.
Flagstaff, there's one really high peak, Arizona snowball. Really tall. Anyway,
Now I'll move to adjourn.
Christie makes a motion adjourned. We have a second?
All seconds.
Second, non-debatable. Those in favor?
Aye.
Bye.
Adjourned.